I'm Jay.
And I'm Sean.
And today we're reviewing the movie Disclosure. Just to be clear, there are a lot of movies called Disclosure going around.
There really are.
We reviewed one 2 weeks ago that was a new documentary on Netflix about trans lives on screen. Very good, check it out. This is not that movie. There was a 1990s film with...
Demi Moore.
Yeah, and Michael Douglas, I think, eh?
I think so, yeah.
About sexual harassment.
But by a woman. Ooh, that's a big twist. Anyway.
Well, it's not really. Like, she accuses him.
Oh, I guess I've never really seen that movie.
Yeah, well, she kind of, like, foists herself on him and then gets promoted over him and then says that he harassed her.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's different than
Thanks the 90s.
Yeah, the 90s is where that can live.
So anyways, forget about that one. I think it's better we leave that behind. This Disclosure is an Australian film by writer-director, I should say, Michael Bentham. And it is very good.
It is very good.
It was nice to be surprised by this one. Not that I thought it would be bad, but there was, like, I hadn't heard much about it, and we got an advance copy, so there really wasn't any talk about it before we started talking about it. It's kind of a minimalist movie, I would say.
Oh, very much so.
Like, it's really basically...
like 5 people.
Yeah.
And one of them doesn't even talk.
So it's just 2 couples on one afternoon discussing a pretty heavy incident. So this movie stars Matilda Ridgway and Leonard Winter. So they're couple number 1, Emily and Danny. And when we meet them, she is swimming nude in their swimming pool. He is relaxing nearby, I think reading something. And suddenly he gets a text and he says, oh, our friends are coming over. This would be Bek and Joel, played by Geraldine Hakewill and Tom Wren. And so apparently they've just texted from the driveway, because it's not so much that they're coming over, but that they're here. And as Sean said, there's a 5th wheel, just like a bodyguard, I guess.
Security, that's right, because the newcomer, the guy is a politician who's had a death threat.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's not really
It's
clear.
Not even a thing. You don't even need to know about it.
He doesn't need to be there.
This guy is a weird presence, though. He puts out a weird vibe. He does not pick up on signals or know when he's not wanted. And he kind of violates people's personal boundaries.
Yes, he does.
But anyways, he's not important. It's really just these 2 couples who up to now have been friends.
Yep.
Friendly.
Yeah, pretty good friends.
Yeah, so Emily and Danny have a 4-year-old daughter. She is out with grandma for the afternoon. She's not around. Bek and Joel have 2 sons. And traditionally their kids have played together, and that happened about 4 weeks ago. And when the little girl comes home from the play date, she discloses that one of those sons touched her inappropriately.
Yep.
So, you know, as a parent of a 4-year-old daughter, and again, there's no age where this is okay, but 4 is really tough because they barely have the language to say what's going on.
Yeah.
So this little girl has said this, and so the parents get together, and obviously everyone is upset. Bek and Joel are horrified that their son could do this, but that was 4 weeks ago. So in the month that's gone by, the 4-year-old daughter is having therapy. She's trying to, her parents are trying to help her through this time. But Bek and Joel have arrived today, again, uninvited, unannounced, to say that actually they've reconsidered. Of course, anyone would be thrown off. Well, I hope anyone. Maybe not anyone. Some people might have sketchier kids. They were not expecting this accusation, and, it's a big thing to process. Now they've had some time, and they've come back to say, actually, they do not believe that this really occurred.
That's right. They think this 4-year-old is making it up.
So the interesting thing I think about this movie is we don't really know the kids. We do not see the incident. So all we hear are two versions of the same story. And in some part, it's not really even up to us to decide what to believe, because it's not really about the incident itself. It's about this relationship between these two couples. Obviously, it has been blown up by this. And now they're, both viciously defending their kids, which you can understand instinctually. And then there's like some shakiness around things. So, everybody brings a backstory in. So I think Danny, the 4-year-old's father, is feeling maybe a little more lenient towards the other family. He thinks they're a good family and he doesn't want to, destroy this kid's future. Although at this young age, that's not what you're doing. I think you're giving him the opportunity to get help now and turn things around before maybe they're a little more gelled in.
Yeah, it seems easy to understand that perspective, to say this kid does need help. Mm-hmm. Let's give it to him before this happens again with someone else.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. And then the 4-year-old's mother is like, does not want to be lenient. She believes her daughter, but she's also thinking of future or other victims and really shutting this down while they can.
You're right. There is a difference there of how adamantly they're going to stick to that position.
Yeah. And of course, the other couple come in with their own baggage too. Bek is herself a survivor of incest,
of abuse,
some sort of abuse by, I don't know if it was like a brother, stepbrother.
It's a family member.
It seems to be some family member that happened to her when she was a child. But she is just like, I think there's a part of her that can't believe her own kid is that, because that would be so terrible, because she's been on that end of it, that she can't even let herself think that. She's just like, no, my son doesn't even, he's a pure, he's angel, he's innocent, he doesn't even know about that stuff. Well, somebody brings up that the last time they were at his house, this kid has been on his dad's internet account, and the dad looks at some stuff on the computer. The dad, and this might be the even more upsetting part, the dad is worried about what an accusation would do to his career. So for him, it's not so much whether or not his son is innocent, as he doesn't want the name in any official reports or social services looking in, because he does not want his political career to be disturbed by this.
You're right. He's the worst.
All
of the other people, you can like rationalize their position and say, I understand where you're coming from, and I don't think it's a bad place. He's coming from a bad place. His motivations are entirely selfish.
Yeah, because not only is he denying what the 4-year-old has claimed, and let's just take a minute to think how a 4-year-old would even come up with this on her own.
Yep.
We have been around a lot of 4-year-olds, and their lies are pretty pathetic.
They don't do well.
See-through.
Their stories fall apart instantly.
Yes.
They can't even keep it together for like 30 seconds.
No, they can't. and if the one mother thinks her son, who is, I don't know, somewhere
He's
between
older,
6
but
and
not
11.
old. Yeah. He's still a young kid himself.
Yes. If she thinks he's too pure and innocent to do these things, how would a 4-year-old know about that kind of abuse? Yeah. Anyways, like I said, in some ways for this movie, you don't even need to believe the story. You just need to absorb these reactions, and you see where they're coming from and how hurt everyone is, and how one word can really barb someone and trigger someone, because this is a touchy topic. This is their children, their young children that we're talking about.
Yep.
And It's intense. So like we said, this whole thing is just on their patio one afternoon. So it is things are getting super heated, and they're falling apart, right? Even if they started off with like Danny feeling a little more lenient, the more Joel, is selfish and coming, the less lenient Danny is feeling.
Of course, yeah, that has to be the reaction when you see where he's trying to push you. Mm-hmm. You are naturally going to resist to that.
Yes. So because we are, right on the patio with them, it is a pretty visceral reaction that we're having. It's uncomfortable. Of course it's uncomfortable. And so you can understand why people are defensive, because it is a hard thing to even process about your kids. Whether you're the victim or the perpetrator, you don't really want to believe either side of that. And yet here is this thing that's come up, and how do we help these kids if, the adults can't even agree? So you can see how, yeah,
there's a right thing to do, but that right thing is not an easy thing, and it could potentially come back at this politician. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, this is a thing that would be used against him, or could be used against him.
Which is crazy, because...
That is crazy. Like, should not be a thing that is in any way harmful to someone's candidacy. But obviously the world we live in, we love sensationalist things. That would make the papers if it leaked. That is certainly a valid career concern. The problem is, it's not a reason to just sweep it under the rug that any of us can live with. This is not what is supposed to happen anymore.
Yeah. And I think another thing that people are having trouble living with, for Bek, who is the survivor of her own childhood abuse, she starts identifying with the feeling of not being believed.
Yep.
Because that was her experience.
Yeah, and I thought that was really powerful, really good to insert into this as something that she is experiencing, because it really does help you understand how this seemingly two totally opposing positions can occur within a person and make sense. Because yes, she is a victim. She should be able to understand what the little 4-year-old girl has gone through, and yet because of her experience, it's not the same, and that is really driving her apart.
Yes, I mean, she can't even tolerate the thought that her kid could be a perpetrator, because how could she even live with him? How could she can't forgive that. I think all 4 actors did very, very well, because you do kind of just get lost. You stop seeing them and you just experience this story and the tension and anxiety. Like, it is rough, and everyone's nerves are just hanging on by a thread. So even though they start tense, they only go up from there. And there's some pretty, it escalates. The situation just keeps escalating. And you see the desperation, like the real desperation.
Yep.
Even though I think, as we say, like, this is an incident, of course it's serious for the little girl and the little boy, but they're both still young. Let's do what we can now, and it shouldn't be this big thing that
it might not be a life-changing thing. They can get past this. They can learn how to deal with it or stop doing it in whichever case it is, right?
So it is interesting how, even though this is a one specific incident involved in 2 couples, we start to feel how communally we are responding to this trauma, and how, denying it, suppressing it, these things have repercussions.
Well, they do.
That's
when it becomes a huge problem.
Yes.
And it is a huge problem. And now we're dealing with the repercussions of stuff that has been covered up for how many decades and it resurfaces eventually. Far better to deal with it now.
Absolutely.
But that's easy to say on the outside, and we can see, again, the actors do a great job to say, we feel that. You can understand where the people are coming from, even though you can't agree with all of them, but it does feel real. And I think that's important, and that's why this movie works.
So it is a little independent film. Michael Bentham obviously wrote a really good script. He found actors who super duper pull it off. It is an uncomfortable watch, sort of in the spirit of, if you've seen The Slap, for example, that was also a book. Yeah, it's rough. It is rough to get through it. And you can sit in each of the characters and feel how you would feel in their shoes. It is not easy.
No, it's not. It's a horrible situation that they're all trying to navigate, and it's one that we don't ever want to have to deal with.
That's right. So I really enjoyed the movie. I was very glad to see it. I liked the direction. I like how taut he kept it, but and sparse. Like, we don't have any outside interruptions. It's really about these two couples who were friends, and that is clearly just coming undone in front of us. And they're not even able to have empathy or compassion for each other anymore because they are so desperately afraid for their own child
and themselves.
Yeah. So it's a good watch.
It's tough, but it's good.
It is.
It's a really good movie.
Yes.
And as you said, it is sparse. That was a good choice in my view, because it really does add to the tension. If we had something to break this up, I think it wouldn't be as powerful a movie.
That's right. And I liked that we don't know, because it just helps remind you that it doesn't even really matter what happened. It matters how people treat it.
Yep.
So this is the wrong way. This is the wrong way. Yeah. People are not at their best in these circumstances.
No, of course not, because you can't step back.
No, you can't. You can't divorce yourself from it when it is your kid, your family, your life. That's pretty intense. But it makes for an interesting watch, and, maybe we get pushed further in the right direction.
Maybe
we
Hopefully.
do. Hopefully. I mean, we always hope that's how we're going.
It's part of the conversation anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.